Hello everybody, this is Reservation Outdoors, and today we're going to be showing you how to tie your own snells and harnesses. I was going through some of my old tackle boxes and happened to come across a few snells and harnesses I made up probably about 4 or 5 years ago. This one here would be just your plain snell, be a crawler. Got 2 hooks on it, be a crawler snell. The single hook would be for your minnows and leeches. That would be your minnow harness. Got a little blade on there to give a little flash down there in the water. Now you can tell these have been sitting in the box for quite some time. They're a little faded, but they still work. I always find it rewarding to make my own stuff for fishing, my own lures, my own contraptions, my own harnesses. It's always rewarding to catch fish off something you made with your own hands. So you can tell some of these have little floats on them there to lift your bait up a little higher off the bottom. Here's a couple that I had bought over the years. I don't think I've gotten to use some of them, but I usually like to add a swivel onto my snells and harnesses. It just cuts down on the line twists. Here's one right here I must have used because there's a swivel on it. There's different styles of blades, beads, clasps. But if you're ever going through your tackle boxes, rod holders, come across one of these that's all tangled up, can't get it undone, you think it's garbage, don't throw them away. You can reuse all these blades, these beads, floats, hooks. You can make your own, It's a lot of fun. I think I was probably about 15 years old, up in Lake of the Woods, and my Uncle Bill taught me how to tie a snell knot. So I appreciate that, Uncle Bill. Thank you. I have a lot of fun making these. There's a lot of different type of slip sinkers and bottom bouncers out there in the market to use with these with these crawler harnesses and snells. I got a few here to show you. Got this style. Your line is able to slip through, so when a fish is biting, you're able to give it a little line without the fish feeling that bottom bouncer attached to the snell. This one here, also a slip sinker. Get you up off the bottom just a little bit. Now these styles here, you'd probably fish, or you'd want to fish with sandy bottom, stuff like that. If you're fishing in a little bit of weeds or rocky bottom, you'd want to get up away from the bottom a little more so your hooks and your rigs don't get snagged up on the rocks. So you go with something like this. It's got a longer wire on it. This style here is the slip style. It's got a little hole your line goes through. So when you get a bite, you can let them take that line without them having to pull on your bottom bouncer. Now this style here, you tie your line directly right to this bottom bouncer, and you would take your snell or your harness and you would clip it on or tie it onto the clip snap swivel here. When a fish grabs onto this and it tries to swim away, it's gonna have to pull on this bottom bouncer. I mean, I still catch lots of fish using this style bottom bouncer, but I've kind of grown towards more of the slip style, your slip style bottom bouncer. I like to give my fish a little bit of time to chew on it and make sure they have it in their mouths. And here are a few of the snells and harnesses that we've made this year so far. Got a few crawlers, a few minnows, some with floats, some without. That's the fun part about making these, is you can make it whatever you want to do. Now like I was saying, if you get any of your harnesses or your snells tangled up, they're not usable, don't throw them away. Clip your line, reuse your parts. Be creative and have a little fun with your harnesses. I know my kids, and they all like to create their own harnesses, different color combinations. Some are real simple, some are real complex. You can put a single blade on there, you can put a double blade. Like I said, you could just be creative, and that's what's so fun about it. And then when you're able to catch a fish off something you made with your own hands, that's an awesome feeling. So I'm just going to go through, get all my old blades, beads, floats, hooks off these tangled up lines, and we'll get to making some fresh ones. Well, I have all my old harnesses and snells taken apart. As you can see, I got quite a few hooks, swivels, beads, floats, blades, and I got metal clevises and these quick change plastic clevises. Now I prefer these plastic clevises just because sometimes I just want to change the blade color. So I could just take a different blade, pop my blade off, grab the one I want, slide that sucker in there. There you have it, it's ready to go. I don't have to tie a whole new snell on there. So next step, putting all your pieces away. Okay, now that I got everything put away in my box, I'm gonna pick which colors I want to use for my harness. And I think I'm gonna go with the green and the yellow. So I'm gonna grab a couple of these yellow hooks. I'll start off with a minnow harness, leech harness, single hook. And the beads, I think I'm gonna go 2 yellow, 2 green, 2 white. And I'm gonna do that pattern twice, so 2 more yellow, 2 more green, and 2 more white. Okay, I already put a clasp on this blade, so I don't need to pick a clasp out. And I'm not going to put a float on this one, but I will need a swivel. Okay, now I don't like to cut the length of my snell until I have it all made up. I like a certain length to mine. I don't like too much of a leader on there. So I'm going to start by tying on the hook. And tying on this hook, we're going to use a snell knot. I don't know what the technical name for it is, so if any of you do, go ahead and leave a comment in the comments. Let us all know. Okay, I'm going to take my tail end. I'm going to take my hook, and I'm going to go through the front side from top to bottom. And I'm going to pull through probably about, I'd say about a foot of line, just so I have plenty of line to work with. Now I'm going to take my hook and I'm going to pinch the eyelet of the hook where the line comes through with my left hand. And what I do is I follow this hook around towards the point to make a little loop. I bring it back to my thumb and my finger. Then I pinch it in the eyelet just like that. Now after I have a good firm pinch on there, I'm going to take my tail end and I'm going to wrap it around the hook and around that little loop we made with our line there. So I have my tail end. I'm going to wrap it around 6 times. So as I'm pinching this all together, I'm just wrapping it around that little loop we made. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now once I come around after the 6th time, I take my middle finger and I pin that line up against the back of the hook there. Then I use my right hand. I'll take my tail end, and you see that little loop there we made? Stick it through that little loop. Pull it down until it's tight, but don't take your finger off that hook. Now with your right hand, thumb and finger, pinch that loop you made, then grab onto your main line. And you want to pull on that main line and that pulls that line, pulls your loop tight. Then you can pull that'll slide all the way up to your eyelet. And I like to grab my main line and my tail end, give it a couple nice little tugs. Then I'll grab my main line, pinch the hook, give it a couple nice little tugs to pull it up nice and snug. So since this is a minnow harness, I'm going to cut that tail end off right next to the hook. And now I just take a full arm length of line, and then we'll start putting our beads on there, and we'll just slide them right down to the hook as we go. So I'm going to start off with white beads. I'm going to go 2 whites. And I'm going to go green. And then the yellow. And I'm just going to repeat that pattern just to get my blade up away from the hook a little further. And you can just keep sliding them right down to your hook. I'll do another yellow. And we'll go back to the white.
To my whites. And the yellow.
And after you get your beads on, you're going to want to come up through the bottom and up through the top. And pull it all the way down to your beads in your hook. And there you'd have your minnow harness. Now some people, they'll put a bead up above their blade, a couple beads if they want, but I usually just throw one up above. And I'm just going to go with yellow just because that's what's underneath the blade. Well, here we got our minnow harness. Last thing we need to do is to tie the swivel on. But before that, I measure mine out. And I don't have an exact measurement. I put one arm straight out, holding the hook. Pull one arm straight out. Then I go to my shoulder. And that's the length that I like my snells and harnesses. So let's tie our swivel on there and we'll be done. I just do a regular fisherman's knot on my swivel. 6 times around. You want to make sure you pinch your swivel in your hand while you're going around, otherwise it's just going to come untwisted as you're trying to twist it up. Clip that tail end. And there's your harness. Minnow harness. Might use that today, might use it tomorrow, we'll see. Okay, let's make a crawler harness. For the crawler harnesses, you're going to need 2 hooks. Got our hooks. Let's do this little minnow pattern blade. And I think I'm gonna go gold and silver. So I'm gonna grab 4 silver, 4 gold. Let's throw a float on here too, just for fun. And we will need a clevis and a swivel. Now when we're tying 2 hooks onto a snell, making a crawler harness, it's the same knot, but we will tie the top hook on first. So go through the top of the hook, out the bottom, out the back side. And with this, you're going to need a couple feet of line, just so you have plenty. So I'm going to pull through like 2 feet of line. And it's going to be the same thing. Pinch the eyelet in the line. Bring your tail end around. Pinch that with your eyelet and your main line until you have your loop. Now you're going to take your tail end right here, and you're going to go around your hook and your loop 6 times while you're pinching your eyelet. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. And take your middle finger, pinch that line up against your hook. Grab your tail end, put it through your loop you made. Pull it through till it's tight. Now pinch that line and that loop with your right hand and start pulling that slack line, that loop, through the top. And it'll slide and cinch up right underneath the eyelet. Give it a good pull in both directions. Grab your hook and then pull up on your main line to cinch it all the way up under the eyelet. Okay, there's your top hook. Now we do our bottom hook. Same process. Grab your hook, come through the top, pull through till it slides up to your top hook. And this part can get a little tricky because the loop you make, that you tie your line around with, as you pull that line through, your hooks are going to slide apart. So you don't want to start where you want it to end. You're going to have to start closer to the top hook, because as you pull that line through to get that loop to pull through and cinch up, all this is going to slide up. And if you have too much space between your hooks when you start that, you're going to end up with a snell that looks like this here, just hooks just way apart. So what I do is I'll bring the eyelet all the way up to the bottom of the top hook. Just like that. And that's where I'll pinch it. Then the same process, make a loop. The loop I make is just a little bit smaller than the size of the hook. Then you'll take your tail end and same process, go around your hook in that loop 6 or 7 times. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pinch it with your middle finger. Take your tail end, put it through your loop you made. Now pinch that loop and pull your line through. Grab your tail end and your main line, give it a couple nice little pulls to cinch it down nice and tight. Grab your hook, pull on your main line, and cut the tail end off. And here we have our hooks tied on for our crawler harness. Next would be the beads. So I'll take a full arm length of line, which is right around 6 feet. And then I'll start making my pattern. So I'm going to start with the silver. I'm going to go 2 silver. Two gold. I'm going to throw my float in the middle. And then repeat the pattern.
2 silver. And 2 gold.
Okay, we'll slide those all the way down to your hooks. And now all we need to do is add the blade. So we'll take our clasp, our clevis, and on these plastic clevises, the quick change, the top of the clasp is where that little gap is for your blade to go on. So we're going to come up through the bottom of our clasp, out through the top, slide that down to your beads. And then to clip these on, you just take your blade, take the edge of it, slide it up and underneath that opening here, and down onto the clasp. And that gives it the ability to spin while it's pulling through the water. So, since I have gold beads underneath my blade, I'm gonna just throw another gold bead up on top of it. And just like before, I like my crawler harnesses a certain length, so I'm gonna take my bottom hook, I'm gonna stretch my arm straight out, and I'm gonna cut it off at my opposite shoulder. And I'm going to take my swivel, tie it onto my top of my harness, the fisherman's knot. Back through the loop we just made. Pull it tight. And there we have it. Crawler harness. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you liked the video, please hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to our channel. Tight lines and be safe out there.